हेलो एवरीवन, हम लोग बात करते क्लास 8 की हिस्ट्री है। चैप्टर 1 है और ये पार्ट 2। हाउ डू वी नो? What sources do historians use in writing about the last 250 years of Indian history? Administration produces records. One important source is the official record of the British administration. The British believed that the act of writing was important. Every instructions, plan, policy, decision, agreement, investigation had to be clearly written up. Once this was done, things could be properly studied and debated. This conviction produced an administrative culture of memos, notions, and reports. The British also left that all important documents and letters needed to be carefully preserved. So they set up records rooms attached to all administrative institutions: the village Tehsildar's office, the collectorate and the commissioner's office, the provincial secretariats, the law courts, all had their record rooms. Specialized institutions like archives and museums were also established to preserve important records, letters, and memos that moved from one branch of the administration to another in the early years of the 19th century can still be read in the archives. You can also study the notes and reports that district officials prepared, or the instructions and directives that were sent by officials at the top to provincial administrator. In the early years of 19th century, these documents were carefully copied out and beautifully written by calligraphists, that is, by those who specialized in the art of beautiful writing. By the middle of the 19th century, with the spread of printing, multiple copies of these records were printed as proceedings of each government department. Figure 4. The National Archives of India came up in 1920. Figure 4. The National Archives of India came up in 1920. When New Delhi was built, the National Museum and the National Archives were both located close to the Viceregal Palace. This location reflects the importance these institutions had in British imaginations. Reports to the Home Department. In 1946, the colonial government in India was trying to put down a mutiny that broke out on the ships of the Royal Indian Navy. Here is a sample of the kind of reports the Home Department got from the different dockyards. Bombay. Arrangements have been made for the army to take over ships and establishment Royal Navy ships are remaining outside the harbour. Karachi. 301 mutineers are under arrest and a few more strongly suspected are to be arrested. All establishments are under military guard. Visakhapatnam. The position is completely under control and no violence has occurred. Military guards have been placed on ships and establishment. No further troubles is expected except that a few men may refuse to work. Director of Intelligence HQ, India Command Situation. Survey became important. The practice of surveying also became common under the colonial administration. The British believed that the country had to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. By the early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country. In the village, revenue surveys were conducted. The effort was to know the topography, the soil quality, the flora, the fauna, the local histories, and the cropping pattern. All the facts seen as necessary to know about to administer the region. From the end of the 19th century, census operations were held every 10 years. These prepared detailed records of the number of the people in the all provinces of India. Nothing information on caste, religion, and occupation. Sorry, it's noting. There were many other surveys: botanical surveys, geological surveys, archaeological surveys, anthropological surveys, forest surveys. Look at the picture. Mapping and survey operation in progress in Bengal. A drawing by James Prinsep, 1832. Note how all the instruments that were used in surveys are placed in the foreground, foreground to emphasize the scientific nature of the project. Figure 5. A custard apple plant 1770s. Botanical Gardens and Natural History Museum established by the British collected plant specimens and information about labor uses. Local artists were asked to draw pictures of these specimens. Historians are now looking at the way such information was gathered and what this information revealed about the nature of colonialism. What official records do not tell. From this vast corpus of records, we can get to know a lot. But we must remember that these are official records. They tell us what the official thought, what they were interested and in and what they wish to preserve for posterity. These records do not always help us understand what other people in the country felt and what lay behind their actions. Figure 7. The rebels of 1857. Images need to be carefully studied for they projected the viewpoint of those who create them. This image can be found in several illustrated books produced by the British after the 1857 rebellion. The captain at the bottom says mutinous sepoys share the loot. In British representations, the rebels appear as greedy, vicious, and brutal. You will read about the rebellion in chapter 5. For that, we need to look elsewhere. When we begin to search for these other sources, we find them in plenty, though they are more difficult to get than official record. We have diaries of people, accounts of pilgrims and travelers, autobiographers of important personalities, and popular booklets, and that was sold in the local bazaars. As printing spread, newspapers were published and issues were debated in public. Leaders and reforms wrote to spread their ideas. Poets and novelists wrote to express their feelings. All those sources, however, were produced by those who were literate. From these, we will not be able to understand how history was experienced and lived by the tribals and the peasants and the worker in the mines or the poor on the streets. Getting to know their lives is a more difficult task, yet this can be done if we make a little bit of effort. When you read this book, you will see how this can be done. Activity. Look at source 1 2. Do you find any difference in the nature of reporting? Explain what you observe. Source 2. Not fit for human consumption. Newspapers provide accounts of the movements in different parts of the country. Here is the report of a police strike in 1946. More than 2,000 policemen in Delhi refused to take their food on Thursday morning as a protest against their low salaries and the bad quality of food supplied to the police line's kitchen. As the news spread to the other police station, the men there also refused to take food. One of the strikers said, "The food supplied to us, the police line's kitchen, is not fit for human consumption. Even cattle would not eat the chapatis and dal which we have to eat." Hindustan Times, 22 March 1946. Let's recall, let's discuss, let's do. Here are some questions. Let's imagine that you are a historian wanting to find about how agriculture changed in a remote tribal area after independence. List the different ways in which you would find information on this. Thank you.